Welcome to Behind the Screens, conversations with background screening pros. I'm Les Rosen, your host, and I'm excited to have you here. On this podcast, we chat with the people who know the background screening world inside and out. Executives, industry experts, legal pros, and more. We dive into their personal stories and insights to give you a real look at what's happening behind the scenes. Whether you work in the screening industry or are just curious, Behind the Screens bring you the real, unfiltered conversations from the people who make it all happen. Stick around for stories you won't hear anywhere else. And here we are, back with another session of the podcast, Behind the Screens, conversations with background screening pros. And our background screening pro today is none other than Katie Kulp. And Katie, will find out more about her, but she's one of the remarkable people in the industry who has now on her third term as a board member of PBSA, which is absolutely amazing, and has held extremely responsible positions and high positions at a number of firms that are household names, just doing wonderful things there. And we'll find out that and more. Katie, welcome to the program.
Hi, Les. Thanks for inviting me on today.
Oh, no, I'm really glad you were able to take the time to do that. So tell us about your current role, what you do basically, and what you find most interesting about the position.
Sure. So right now, my role is the Vice President of Global Operations at Certn. I basically lead cross-regional collaboration, ensuring consistency in all of our global processes, finding performance efficiencies across North America, APAC, EMEA. I also oversee our global quality program, global training program, as well as managing our data supplier base as well. What I really find most interesting about the role that I'm in now is being able to find creative ways to exceed our margin goals and gain efficiencies at the same time. So, of course, it's challenging and more successful in some regions than others and, more months than others. But there's something really satisfying to me about driving changes that produce real results across the organization and, that really impact the success of the business. So I really like that.
And it's also nice where you can actually see it and you can measure it and you can say, well, this is what we had before and now we're doing this. And wow,
right.
I mean, things are better.
Because you're told to do it. You're doing it because you're making those decisions and you understand the impact.
Oh, that's great. Well, and of course, you just didn't get there by accident. You had a career path. And what's really interesting when you talk to folks who've been in the screening industry is to find about their career path. And tell us about your path that got you from where you started to where you are today.
Yeah, so I think my journey is very unique compared to some people's, which, I've really enjoyed. So I started at the very bottom doing criminal research, processing cases, which, by the way, I think was some of the most valuable experience I've had in my later roles. My husband got transferred for work after that, and so I got my first operations management role after about a year in another state. Wasn't prepared for it at all, had a lot of tough days, learned from a lot of failure, figured it out. And then I had an opportunity to move back home with his job. And so, I was still kind of early on in my career, moved back to Philadelphia, took another step forward into a director role at an organization that focused more on DOT. So I got to learn about another niche part of the industry. It's also where I met my first real mentor. He pushed me outside of my comfort zone every day, taught me the difference between managing and leading. And that's where I feel I've really experienced the most growth in my career. Fast forward a bit, 6 years later, said yes to a new opportunity at another organization, essentially to build the operation of background screening from the ground up at that organization.
Right.
And so I ran the operations and compliance side for a number of years, whirlwind, but I loved it. And I then eventually moved on after another 6 years and joined Certn, where I am now, starting as the VP of U.S. Compliance and now the VP of Global Operations. And I, oversee Canada, EMEA, and our APAC regions from an operational standpoint.
So actually, it was in Philadelphia. I remember, I think I met you before, but I do remember going to your offices in Philadelphia. I was there for yakking about something that's so memorable. I can't even remember what it was.
I know. It was about a crooked criminal.
All right. Variation of the thing. That's right. I have about 10 different speeches, and they're basically all the same speech, but just in different combinations. So that's great. So it was very interesting. I don't want to go into anything personal here, but you mentioned you had your first mentor. Can we mention who that was? Is it somebody we both know?
Yeah, of course. It was Art Cohen. amazing guy, great mentor. And like I said, really just taught me the management side and the difference between managing and leading and how to treat people, which when you start at the bottom, you're so used to just doing everything and you just want to get it done and you kind of forget that like people are still people. And he really taught me that. And to me, that was something I took with me.
And speaking of Brother Art, I'd say the reason I'm wearing the white, and I wear them in all of these podcasts, is Art has a theory that you just get a big batch of white shirts. You wear a white shirt every day. Right. So my wife thought, well, that sounds really good. So now I wear white shirts all the Art. So that's great. And hopefully they'll have time with Art a little bit, one of these podcasts. So that brings us up to what you're doing now. And so that's quite a path. So basically, you really did start at the very bottom, doing, for lack of a better term, doing the grunt work back in the days when it was really grunty with fax machines and phone
Before all
calls.
the automation came about.
Yeah, that's right. Automation was you on a telephone, right? Right. Right. Oh, that's great. Well, now that you've been in the screening industry, you've had all these experiences. What can you share about what you like most about your career in the background screening industry?
Yeah, I'd say honestly, the network of background screening friends that I've built over the years is probably the thing I really like the most. The industry is so complex, as you know, with so many laws, regulations, new technologies, but I've made so many genuine connections with people who are always willing to share ideas, help navigate the challenges together. And I don't know that I'd find that in any other industry. And
Right.
I really enjoy that.
Yeah, it's an interesting industry because we exist at the intersection of where a lot of things occur, where jobs and human resources and discrimination laws. So there's just so many moving parts where our industries happen to be located. So obviously, one of the things that I mentioned in the beginning is that you are now serving not your first, not your second, but now your third. Count them, folks. It's three. Your third term on
They
the
just can't get rid
PBSA
of me.
board. And I was teasing before you on one of the broadcast app that in the dictionary under glutton for punishment is a picture of Katie. So, all right. So how did you get roped into this? And what's been your experience with PBSA in your career and in your personal development?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you how I got roped in is somebody telling me to join a government relations call back in 2008 when I had no idea which way was up. Got on the first call and was like, I have no idea what's going on. But honestly, it was the best thing that I did for my background screening career. By joining PBSA generally back in probably in 2008, I was able to just stay in the know, which really is worth a lot. Because if you work for any company and you just do things the same way you've been doing them for 15 years, you don't know how anybody else is doing it. You don't know what new things are out. You don't know what technology's out there. And you don't know if you're doing things because you've been doing them or if it's because you think it's really the right way. So it really allows you to make better decisions just being involved. But taking it a step further, I joined a committee at some point, government relations and best practices. And as time went on, I gained more firsthand information related to operational and compliance roles that I had that I was able to take with me into my day-to-day jobs. And I likely wouldn't have known those things otherwise. So it definitely helped me gain confidence, which made me better at any role that I took on. Eventually, I co-led a committee, co-chaired the government relations committee for a couple of years.
And I got to say, that's probably one of the hardest jobs in PBSA is government relations and chairing or co-chairing that committee. Because you not only have what's happening in Congress and all the federal agencies, but then you have 50 states and then 50 state governments.
Yeah, certainly not easy. Thankfully, we have really strong co-chairs on the other side as well. And, I work alongside of really intelligent and hardworking people. So it's really fun. But that was a great opportunity. It gave me an opportunity to lead, really pushed me to learn and grow even more. And now, as you mentioned, 7 years into serving on the board of directors on my third term, has really given me the insights into the business side of PBSA, which has helped me in my own world here lead operations, set meaningful goals globally for my own teams, and look at things with more of a business perspective rather than just a narrowed view.
Right.
Without PBSA, I certainly wouldn't be in the position I am today with the confidence level that I have. That's for sure.
So now, as a board member, as a past and current board member, what's your monthly obligation? I mean, are there monthly meetings or?
So for the board of directors, it's really just one monthly meeting. It's more the board liaison to the government relations committee. That's probably a little bit more time consuming. I'd probably be involved there otherwise, but that's probably where we spend the most time. And then, reviewing documents and things like that outside of the board meetings. But generally, it's a monthly obligation.
in addition and on top of your obligations with your current position, not to mention your family and your personal life. So you're busy. All
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Well, let's change directions a little bit here and leave the screening industry and let's talk about other things outside of background screening. So I do like to ask people about, perhaps their hobbies or interests outside of work, what you do for fun. I see behind you some pictures, and I assume those were not the pictures that came with the frames that you bought. Those are people you must know. So tell us a little bit about yourself outside of the PBSA background screening framework.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, though it looks like I should be spending my time cleaning up a lot of the post-its on my wall and, my cabinet over there, really, what I really do mostly is spend time with my daughters and my husband. My daughter is, oh yeah, you can't see in those pictures. Brinley is 12, Gemma is 8, and they are both involved in competitive cheer and tumbling. So I'm pretty much carting them around any chance I get that I'm not working, and I really enjoy it. So it's a really fun sport to be a part of.
Oh, that's great. So you said competitive tumbling and what else?
Cheerleading, like competitive
Oh,
cheerleading, tumbling, yeah.
oh, that's fantastic. So
Yeah.
is that one of these things where every weekend you're off somewhere and
Yeah, there's a few months out of the year where there's competitions all over the place, and so we travel nationally.
oh, wow. And that's a big deal. So sometimes I'll travel and there'll be a hotel full of young people doing whatever it is they do.
Oh, I'm sure you'd love that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And parents and boxes of snacks and drinks. So
That
you,
unlucky weekend that you ended up at the hotel is the same time as a competition.
all right. So in addition to everything else you do in the background screening industry and with BBSA, that you're on that circuit as well.
That's right.
Oh, that must probably your favorite thing to do.
It's right in line with my personality. Just go.
Go, go, go. All right. Do you ever get a chance for a vacation? If you do, where do you go? Or are these competitions your vacation?
So one half of our vacation is always the kids have a competition in Florida every year for a week. And the second one, my husband and I usually go away by ourselves and enjoy an island, just sit back and relax and do nothing,
Oh,
which is
that's
my,
fantastic.
yeah.
I think sometimes people forget that, you have to sharpen the saw. And sometimes doing nothing is the best thing you can do because that gets you ready to do all the things you do. Because
You have to recharge, yeah.
yeah. I mean, because you put in a 36-hour day every 24 hours, it sounds like. So that's just incredible. All right.
It feels like some days, but I guess if you love what you're doing, it doesn't feel as bad, right?
Oh, that's amazing. Well, yeah, and along those same lines, I like to ask people to tell us something interesting about themselves that people may not know or realize, because there's just a lot of interesting people in the industry, do a lot of amazing things. So tell us something about Katie Kulp that not related to screening that people may not know or you might feel would be fun for them or important for them to know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say number one, I just learned this about myself very recently when someone told me this about myself, and I thought it was worth sharing. I am all about purpose. So someone recently told me that if something doesn't feel productive to me or there's no end goal, I
Right.
struggle to get invested. And couldn't be more true. That's just how I am in life with even, somebody says, hey, you want to go for a walk on the beach? And I'm like, but where are we going? Like,
All right.
what's the end goal? It's interesting. And two, might be a little bit more obvious, so people might realize this, but they only operate at one speed, and that's fast.
Oh, that's
Anyone who's ever walked next to me will confirm that.
that's incredible. Well, we'll segue back in the screening a little bit, and given that your particular expertise and role in the industry and all the things you've seen, and the fact that you're on top of lots and lots of different areas, from your perspective, what do you see? And we're not trying to make this into a big substantive lecture here, but
Yeah.
just sort of off the top of your head, what does your crystal ball tell you about the top issues that you see in the background screening issues that might keep you up at night or that you're preparing for, or you in the back of your mind think, boy, we got to be really ready for this?
And yeah, one, I think that is hopefully obvious to everybody is access to data, right? Retaining access to data is a big one. Without access, we can't provide our current services, not to mention employers and landlords can't get people in seats or apartments. But then we have privacy and AI. We have to stay ahead of all the evolving privacy laws, rulings that are impacting our ability to continue to serve our customers at all, and really understand the growing impact of AI on our processes, which will make both compliance and retaining people more complex. And again, I mean, the one that is, I'm sure everyone is thinking is, traditional background screening as it has existed all these years, is it going away? And, we need to prepare for how to adapt to new technologies and innovate, or we probably wouldn't survive. And that's, every business innovating and figuring those things out.
Oh, that's right. I mean, every business needs a value proposition. So then the question is, well, with AI, what's our value proposition? So I've heard people say, well, with AI, things will get easier. But I agree with your approach. With AI, actually, things will get more complicated.
Yep. I mean, it goes both ways for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of some of the new technologies then, how do you think that'll influence the work being done by background screening professionals and background screening firms? How do you see the future shaping out in the industry with technologies or just, structurally, things like that? What's your crystal ball tell you?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it feels simple. If we don't adapt, we won't survive. So automation and AI, they're going to continue to grow. The companies that adapt to that technology will do great. And even if you adapt, you need to put resources into understanding how to use them appropriately, or, you're going to end up out of business. We are going to end up out of business, right? Whether it be from a business development and service delivery standpoint, or because we've gotten sued out of the market. So, just being able to adapt, but doing it in the right way.
Very interesting. So let me ask you this. If you were talking to now to your younger self and trying to map out your career in the background screening industry, or you were just talking to a person that is entering the industry or thinking of entering the industry, or they're, within their first few years and they're wondering, do I want to stay in this industry? What's my path or future? What's your advice to them? What would you recommend that people do to grow in the industry?
Number one, find someone to learn from and who's going to push you out of your comfort zone at any organization that you work for, not just in background screening, any business leaders who can think creatively and think outside the box and find new ways to do things is going to be really important in this industry. And two, join PBSA, network with people. It's full of opportunities to learn and really become better at any job you're in the background screening profession. And if you pay attention, there's ways to learn in a bunch of different ways.
I mean, there are people who go to the PBSA meetings and they see what's happening, and they know who they know, but there might be people they don't know. I assume, for example, if a kind of a newish person came up to you and introduced themselves, you'd be more than happy to sit down and share your thoughts and observations and what you know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would always find out what the person's doing, what they're interested in, and, point them towards different committees, not necessarily to volunteer, but to attend certain calls and learn about what's going on. If you're involved in operation side of your company, you need to know where we're losing access, if there's challenges on the court record side, right? And if you do verifications, you might need to know more about best practices. And there's a lot of resources there that people can get information from. And really just encouraging people to network and have the conversation that they're having with me with other people as well. And just learning, where the profession has been, where it's going, and staying in tune with what's going on. Because if you don't stay current, and you work inside your four walls, you're never going to be able to continue down this road successfully.
Well, it sounds like your career, in a way, got kickstarted not only by having a great mentor, but also got kickstarted by just doing, more or less the everyday grunt work of committees, just being there, just showing up, right?
Being there and showing up is how you learn. By doing, you learn. That's how I felt anyway, by kind of sitting back and watching and having people feed you information. It never makes you feel like you actually know anything. You're just told it.
Right. That's great advice. And when's your term over with the board? When's your third term? How much longer are you? What's your sentence? I mean, when do you
I just got reelected last. I'm in for the long haul.
Oh, you're in for the long haul.
After 3 years now, fresh 3 years. I'm excited about it.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. So, with all your involvement in PBSA, do you have any final thoughts or any closing thoughts you want to share with people that you think people should really keep in mind about the screening industry?
Nothing specific. I really want to thank you for having me on the podcast, though. I'm excited to see how it grows and how the industry continues to evolve. And again, it's just another way to hear other people's thoughts and keep an open mind, which is really important.
And one of the real interesting things, the many interesting things talking to you is just hearing about how you maintain your life balance. You do your vacation, your family vacation, your daughters, plus your work as well. I mean, do you have a secret there of, Stephen Covey has that great book, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I can see that you have those habits. One of them he calls sharpen the saw, which is to have a work-life balance.
Well, in my mind, one of the things that I recognized I had to do, even in the newer role that I have now, being global, is managing time. and
Right.
being able to set your calendar in a way that works for you. Not everybody has the luxury of doing that all the time, but in a way, depending on how far you're stretched, to make sure that you leave yourself that time and you carve out that time. You have a million things to work on. Don't think you're going to somehow get them done. Carve the time out in your calendar and make time. And it's not just the urgent, it's the important that really needs to be prioritized. And everybody says this in a lot of different ways, but it's really true. You can check the boxes, but if you're not doing the things that are important and spending time on those, that's really what keeps you awake at night.
Right. And that's actually part of the Covey book, which is you have to figure out, you want to spend your time working in things that are important and non-urgent. You don't want to constantly be chasing your tail and putting out fires, right? You want to create a situation where you don't have fires in the first place, right?
I'm sure we're all still going to have fires that
that's true.
never cease. But yeah, absolutely just being conscious of that and working to get better at it every day is something that makes me better.
Well, Katie Kulp, it's been a pleasure talking to you as always. And when the program goes live, your LinkedIn profile will be there for people to see as well. And I really appreciate you being part of the program. And let me close by giving you the last word before I have the closing remarks.
All right. Well, thank you, Les, and to everybody that might be listening to the podcast for, I guess, surviving the last 30 some minutes.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, it's been our pleasure to have this time with Katie Kulp. And Katie, I have to say, I've always thought you're just a remarkable person and just confirms that over and over again. So it's a real pleasure having you here.
Thank you, Les.
My pleasure. And folks, stay tuned. Be sure to visit the website, the Background Screen Pros, for our next guest and as this program continues. And once again, our thanks to Katie for spending this time with us and sharing some really valuable thoughts and insight. Really appreciate it. And Katie, good to see you. Thanks.
Thanks, Les.
All right. That was yet another wonderful conversation with a Background Screening Pro. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an update. And hey, if you got a moment, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It really helps get the word out. For more info or to catch up on past episodes, or to make suggestions or to suggest possible future guests, head over to our website. Once again, this is your host, Les Rosen, and it's been a pleasure to bring you another episode. See you on the next episode. Thanks.